Hey gang, Jake here. You know, once in a while, a piece of media comes around that changes the game, and has an impact on fans that lasts a lifetime. Sometimes, those special franchises end up getting the chance to face off with the classics of their medium, and once in a while, it actually works really well. For me, that special game of impact is Omori. I gave this game a shot recently, and I just fell in love. This game and these characters mean so much to me, and I can't think of much that'd be cooler than them joining the fight in a game like Fraymakers. Today, we're going to discuss one way that could work, from moveset to stage, the whole shebang. Now, Omori is a game with a lot of heart behind it, from both the people who made it and the fans who cherish it. As such, I feel like we should clarify some things before we get started. First off, Omori is a game whose biggest strengths lie in story. That story follows a lot of twists and turns, and I'm willing to say that it is absolutely best experienced blind. I won't be revealing anything too massive, and what I will be discussing is listed on screen, but if you have even the slightest interest in playing this game, or even if you don't, I highly recommend doing so before watching this video. I know it sounds like a big request, but it is absolutely worth your time, so keep it in mind. Second, while Fraymakers is the focus of this video, it's absolutely not the only indie crossover platform fighter we could see Omori pop up in. For instance, Indie Rumble is a game with a quickly expanding roster, and Team Rumble has been very open about already wanting to see Omori join the fray and get ready to rumble. Because of that, while this video is centered specifically on Fraymakers, the basics of the character's design could transfer either way, and while we won't be discussing Rumble-specific functions in this video, another video will release alongside this one that covers those. With that stuff out of the way, let's discuss the crux of Omori's gameplay, the emotion system. So, Omori is a fairly familiar feeling RPG on the surface, but under the hood, it's got one critical aspect that separates it from the rest of the crop, the emotion system. Basically, throughout battles, characters can feel a variety of emotions, those being happiness, sadness, and anger. Each of these states comes with their own buffs and debuffs, and while I could discuss their effects in Omori itself, I think a more practical starting point might be in the Rivals of Aether workshop. The user's circle guy made their own take on Omori there, and for their purposes, the emotions sort of act like Shulk's Minato arts. These effects do a great job of adapting the mechanic to a fighting game, and for our purposes, I think they'd be mostly perfect as they are for Fraymakers. To clarify, Happy causes Omori to move and attack faster, as well as fall slower, with the downside of taking greater knockback. Sad causes Omori to take way less damage and knockback, but also take a significant debuff in speed. Angry causes Omori to deal significantly more damage, but also take more damage. Each of these would be temporary status effects, and it would be on the player to micromanage them to carry Omori to the win. Now with that said, let's talk about the neutral special. In Circle Guy's Omori mod, this is where Omori can switch between the emotional states, similar to Shulk in Smash. Here, however, it would be a little different. This move would function like a grab, and involve Omori holding onto an opponent and giving the player a chance to use a directional input. Depending on that input, the victim would then have one of the emotion effects apply to them. It would work pretty much just like Omori applying one to himself, except the victim can't cancel the effect until it's run its course. Before that, they're stuck with the same debuffs, and also the same buffs Omori deals with. Now, for the rest of Omori's moves, he'll use some of his own, borrow some from his friends, and put his own spin on some. For one of his own, the side special will be Stare. Think of it as kinda like Mewtwo's Disable, where Omori will look in front of him, and opponents who make a direct line of sight will have their next attacks weakened. It's not particularly strong, but it's useful for when Omori's defense is low. Next, the down special will be Counter. This move will involve Omori waiting for the opponent, but if someone tries to land a hit, Aubrey will appear from behind him and headbutt him into the dirt. It's a powerful tool, but the window of opportunity is really small, so it shouldn't be wasted. For the up special, Omori will get an assist from another friend, Kel. Kel's special talent is throwing things, so for the recovery, he'll grab Omori, flex, and chuck him into the air. It's not the best recovery, with a slow start and a weak trajectory arc, so it's critical to maintain stage presence and not get in a situation where you need it. Next, for smash attacks, Omori will get some help from his good friend Aubrey. For the side smash, she'll use Mood Wrecker, which doesn't have a precise interpretation, but I know if someone introduced a heavy toy to my guts at high speed, I'd be in a pretty wrecked mood. For the down smash, she'll use Mash, which will involve slamming Mr. Planteg into the ground in front of her. This will deal damage about equivalent to a tilt as it goes through the arc, but when it reaches the ground in front of Aubrey, it'll deal massive damage, on top of spiking. Think of it as kinda like Jenny's Mighty Mallets. For the up smash, Aubrey will wind up before throwing her stuffed toy directly in the air above herself and Omori. This will have some solid range, but easily be one of the weaker smashes in the game, and when it makes contact with an opponent, the arc will be interrupted, sending Mr. Plantag back down to Aubrey. The aerials will borrow from each member of the party, but largely there won't be any wacky effects to them, just basic blows. The Nair will have Omori borrow Kel's megaphone, making a screeching noise that hurts opponents on all sides. The Fair will involve nailing a power hit with Aubrey's plush, although it won't be quite as strong as when she does it. The Bear will be called Bread Slice. In practice it'll just be a slice with a knife, but the name Bread Slice is too good to pass up. For the Dare, Omori will accidentally drop a cup of scalding hot tea from Hero, which won't deal crazy damage or have a great hitbox, but it'll have a nice burn effect for a few seconds afterwards. Lastly, the up air will involve Omori twirling like Aubrey, which will deal damage on both sides of his body as his knife spins, and give him just a smidgen of recovery. For the side tilt, we'll have Omori use Hack Away, which will involve going for 3 slashes in quick succession. The down tilt entails borrowing a ball from Kel and ricocheting it off the ground and into the background. The ball will have an odd arc, but it won't actually have a hitbox after it hits the ground, so it's really only that hit that impacts the flow of battle. Finally, the up tilt entails a little bit of sharing food, with Omori borrowing Hero's spatula to flip a pancake as hard as he can right into any high up opponents. For the dash attack, we'll name it after Lucky Slice, but it'll essentially just be a simple quick slice for starting combos. For the jab, we'll throw in Stab, which won't actually be able to crit, but I'd love if it could make the crit sound from Omori, because it's just a great noise. For the throws, we'll do something similar to the up special, but instead of Kel throwing Omori, he'll throw the opponents. Now, none of these moves actually involve the player using the emotion system on themselves, but that's just because we'll integrate it somewhere you wouldn't expect: Omori's taunts. Just to clarify, we don't know how many taunts characters will have in Fraymakers, but assuming there's 3, each will involve one of Omori's friends coming out to cause a certain effect. The up taunt will have Aubrey give him a pep talk, which will make him happy. The side taunt will have Kel annoy him, which will make him angry. And Hero doesn't actually associate with an emotion, but for the down taunt, he'll come out and enjoy some tea and a sad poem with Omori, which will make Omori sad. That being said, if Omori uses a taunt while that taunt's emotion is already active, it'll be replaced with Hero giving Omori a massage, removing the emotion and returning him to neutral. As you can probably guess, these will all be long animations, but the effect will be immediate, and the animation itself will be cancelable via shield. This system may be too much to put on taunts, but giving Omori the increased range of function could make him a really interesting character to fight, and easily one of the most compelling on the roster. Finally, for Omori's super, everyone would get together for a final attack and release their energy. The initial hit of this will be a normal knife slash, since Omori has to attack normally to use this move. From there, Omori, Aubrey, and Hero will all lay the smackdown on any opponents caught in the crossfire, with each of them using their signature weapons. All the while, Kel will stay outside of the circle of pain and repeatedly throw his ball at the opponents, with all of it culminating in one final simultaneous attack that'll cause a blast of rainbow energy, almost like a trippier version of Villager's final smash. This isn't specifically a gameplay thing, but the sound effect this move uses in-game is really dang satisfying, and I'd love to see it stick around. Finally, with all of Omori's moveset out of the way, let's talk about the other ways the franchise can be represented. First off, for alternate costumes, I think focusing on both Omori's allies and some bosses would be great, so I'd love to see some costumes based on Basil, the rest of the party, Space Boyfriend, Sweetheart, and Jossum. For an assist from the game, I think a great character to use would be Pluto. As for what he'd do, I could see him acting like a warp star with a little bit of aimbot. Once activated, he'll soar into the air way past the blast zone, and from there, the player has to ensure there is nothing stopping him from hitting the opponent. If they can pull it off, he'll deal massive damage, but if they can't, he'll just cause a decent disruption before leaving. Last but not least, I think the best pick for a stage based on Omori would be the Otherworld, the game's second major area. As much as the vast forest is iconic, I think Otherworld does a better job of representing the game's vibe, and creates a much more entertaining backdrop. The main platform would be suspended in the night sky, with the trailer park on the ground below and the constellations raised above. As for platform layouts, I don't really have any in mind, but if there was ever a stage to get weird with, this would be the one. Put the platforms onto the main stage for all I know, just make sure it's fun to play. For the music, I think the soundtrack has plenty of great songs that lend really well to each of the artists behind Fraymakers OST. For Super Soul Bros, Tussle Among Trees is a super energetic track that I think would work really well with some jazz instrumentation. For OC Remix, the cyberspace vibes of You Were Wrong, Go Back should feel right at home, and if anyone can make this track more aggressive, it's this dude. Lastly, World's End Valentine has already been covered by Family Jewels, and that cover already kicks ass, so it'd be great to see it pop up again. Overall, while I acknowledge that Omori isn't really the type of game that pops up in these crossovers, both Fraymakers and Indie Rumble would be a perfect opportunity for this world. Not only for Omori to grow more popular and expand its own fandom, but for the developers at Team Fray and Team Rumble to show their love for this game, as they've been so open about having it. Personally, I think that makes it worth it, even if it's out of the ordinary for Omori to do. Thank you guys for watching. I got absolutely sucked into this game last semester, and I needed to talk about it somehow. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, please consider liking and subscribing. It's a really good way for me to gauge my reach as a channel. Normally, this is where I'd ask y'all to start a discussion in the comments below, and I'd still love to hear y'all's thoughts on the moveset itself, but I do ask that we refrain from spoilers. I never get too many comments, so I'll try to snipe any that crop up with big spoilers, but if you somehow got this far and just now decided to try out the game, maybe steer clear for now. With all that said, I gotta go work on whatever thing I'm working on when this releases. Peace out.